This is it, the month we'd all been waiting for, a crucial month for Canadian soccer. In the last year, the pool of professional clubs in Canada has expanded from 4 to 11, and it's genuinely great that we have so many more teams to discuss and a whole other league to follow. This month, 4 of those 7 new teams kicked off, and I'm excited to finally be able to discuss them in a legitimate capacity, now that they at least have a competitive game to their names. But first, the pre-existing clubs which have been grinding away since early March have set some interesting tones for their seasons so far. Let's talk about the Montreal Impact to start. And by far, they've been the most impressive team of the bunch this month. So throughout all of April, they conceded 3 goals, all of which came in the same game, in their only defeat of the month. Every other game is ended in a shutout, starting the month with 0-0 draws at DC and NYC, followed by wins over Columbus, New England, and Chicago. Remember that the end of last month ended with a 7-1 defeat to Sporting Kansas City. Clearly that pummeling changed something in this team, and Remy Gard's squad seemed to have made some personal vow to never let in a goal again. They shut out the best team in the East so far, and won tough games with Columbus and Chicago. Aside from the easy 3-0 win in New England, the majority of these games have shown that Montreal has the capacity to lock you down and grind out a victory if the opportunity presents itself. It might not be the prettiest soccer, but it's effective. Montreal will grab points in any way they can. Now, I don't want to take away anything from the good defensive discipline and good goalkeeping by Evan Bush. That can't be underestimated, but the only concern here is that Montreal's win over the Crew and the Fire came against a run of play. Columbus and Chicago dominated those games, but Montreal took them by surprise and stole the lead. Now, locking down your defense and grabbing the lead is just fine, but you see that a good team on a good day can break Montreal down. Philly has had a pretty good season so far, and everything clicked for them when Montreal visited. New York, Chicago, and Columbus are not doing super hot this season, and at the point they visited DC, DC had come off the back of a devastating 4-0 home loss to LAFC. So safe to say they may have been a bit shaken up. Either way, stronger tests are coming for Montreal, but you can't help but applaud their defensive discipline. If they can get some more attacking lethality going, then maybe the East will have something to be worried about going forward. Now, in a less positive light, after a stellar March in which they won all of their games, TFC really petered out in April. After the best start in club history with 3 straight wins, TFC only won once this month in a near-miss thriller with Minnesota. They got a 2-2 draw at home with a rather average Chicago team, lost to the Sounders, which I suppose is no shame given their form. That was a close game anyway. The lowest point, though, is the home defeat to the Timbers. That doesn't only upset me because I'm a Whitecaps fan, but because Portland have been very poor this season. TFC has shipped so many goals this month. Their defense is just fallen apart. Although I suppose their defensive woes are not super new, they did concede 2 to bottom-dwelling New England during that 3-win stretch in March. But now their offense isn't really making up for it anymore. Now, Pozuelo is very good, no doubt. He even managed a hat-trick in this bad stretch, and Josie Altidore has been scoring his ass off. But it seems that the bad vibes off the pitch is seeping onto the pitch. Josie had some strong words for TFC president Bill Manning, and maybe this is indicative of discord between the players and the front office and/or management. This is, of course, speculation, though. May does have winnable games for TFC, albeit away versus Orlando, Atlanta, and as much as I hate to admit it, Vancouver. And their home matches with Philly, DC, and San Jose will be interesting tests if those teams maintain their forms. And the visit to RSL is real tough to predict because RSL has been so weird this year. To round out the MLS trio are my boys, the Whitecaps. Where do I fucking begin? Okay, let's preface this by saying that while I want to mostly keep this to on-field affairs, I can't ignore the terrible scandals that the front office have been involved in recently. From Sierra McCormick's revelations about the terrible treatment of female players under their umbrella, to racial abuse, all under the tenure of Bob Lenarduzzi. Now, the club released a half-hearted statement, but it was clearly just corporate jargon that usually comes out when under pressure. I applaud my fellow fans in staging walkouts during the last 2 home games, and I hope the upper echelons of the club take heed of these actions and actually try to change the overall culture around the club moving forward. As for the form on the pitch, it's almost like there's some karmic punishment taking place, as our form has been just as ugly as the club's management. Now, there are a few bright spots here. Inbam Huang and Jordi Reyna are doing pretty well, but this team is just so wasteful. Ardaiz can't seem to put the ball in the net if his life depended on it. Our defense is atrocious. Montero is nowhere to be found. And Ali Adnan has been solid, but he keeps making these terrible errors. Like, he'll be good 90% of the time, but when he makes an error, he makes an error. It's hard to blame Marc Dos Santos. This is clearly a rebuild year, and this is the first year in a while without some core guys that have taken us to playoff appearances and Canadian Championship finals in these last 4 or so years. Now, we lost Ousted 2 seasons ago, but even his solid replacement in Marinovic has gone. Probably the biggest loss, though, is Kendall Waston, who's a rock in defense and lethal in the air, and in general is a leader and a great presence on the pitch. Other important losses to this squad is Marcel de Jong, who has moved on to our cross-province rivals in Pacific FC now, Christian Teixeira, Eric Hurtado, Nico Mesquita, and Alfonso Davies. Now, that core of guys may not have brought us the crazy success we may have hoped for, but that core spent a good while together, keeping us a team that could at least make postseason appearances. We went deep in a CCL campaign and even captured a Canadian Championship along the way. It's not the most illustrious rap sheet of accomplishments, but it was at least competitive most of the time. Now the team has a bunch of new guys and needs to build a new identity. Has its first new coach in quite a while, and may be staring at its first extensive rebuild phase in its MLS history. Best of luck to all Whitecaps fans, including myself. I hope when this club gets out of this dark spot that it gets out a better and more hospitable club that it entered, both on and off the pitch. In the immediate future of May 2019, though, we have 3 winnable games against fellow strugglers Colorado, Portland, and Atlanta. Now, do I think the Whitecaps will win all 3 of those games? Absolutely not. But man, if we don't at least win one of those games, it's going to be a long-ass year. Finally, to cap off the discussion on the pre-existing clubs is the currently controversial Ottawa Fury. After a solid 2-match march in which they got 4 points away from home, things got a lot more confusing for the Fury in April. They got laid out by MLS-bound Nashville, then soundly beat newcomers Loudoun, lost to Louisville in a match they could have gotten points in, then soundly beat Atlanta United too. Though I feel like you shouldn't be dropping points to a fellow pro team's second squad in any context. But those B squads have found some pretty good success in the USL, especially New York Red Bulls 2, which in their 4-year existence already have more titles than New York Red Bulls 1. Seriously, what the fuck was going on in 2016? But yeah, either way, a mixed month for the Fury. They're currently in a playoff spot, but with this kind of inconsistency, who knows how long they'll be there. The season is young after all. On the bright side for this team, Carl Howarth is really good and has been consistently productive. Moore Sam is promising, and Callum Irving is really good in goal. This team just needs to get a sense of consistency. At the very least, lock down their home field and win most of their games there, and the postseason might not be out of reach for this team. We'll see in May. Now for the main act of the month are the new CPL teams. Canadian fans have been anxiously waiting to see what these teams can do after a rather secretive preseason camp in the Dominican, though shout out to Cavalry and Edmonton for actually providing highlights of their games. I can't talk too much about the Dominican preseason because there's just a lack of information in regards to the games they played. All I'll say is congrats to Calgary on yet another Al Clasico win. These guys have existed for like a year and already 2-0 against the Eddies. Yes, I count that showcase series back in October, fight me. But now the real test awaits these teams in the league in a few days. As for the 4 clubs that played, a good amount to talk about. The opening match pitted my boys the Forge versus fellow Ontarians York 9. I want to of course offer congratulations to all soccer fans in Canada, just for the fact that the league started, and I hope the league can prosper. Now, what I like about this opening weekend was we got a sense of what soccer looks like in a huge Canadian stadium, and a small, more homely stadium. The Forge hosted their match versus York at Tim Hortons Field, in which they share with the Ticats, and considering this is a brand new team in a sport that's still getting its bearings in the general area of TFC's influence, it was a very good crowd in Hamilton, and I was happy to see so many people show up. On to the game itself, York 9 scored so early I hadn't even processed the fact that the league was happening before the York players were celebrating. Telfer had great speed and hustle to capitalize on the Forge's sloppy play, and beat the tackle to get free and scored the league's first ever goal. Forge throughout the game did look the better team but could not put away their chances, and York probably would have punished them for it if they weren't adjusting to the day one nerves as well. York was dangerous on the counter and created a few chances out of nothing, meaning you can't get too comfortable against this team even if you have more possession. The whole complexion of the game changed when Cadell Thomas got put in the game. The dude just brought a new energy. He made runs, got into space, played with confidence, tried to set up other guys, and got the historic tying goal and first competitive goal in Forge history. Both teams seem to possess qualities in different areas. York has speed and surprise, and if the first game is any indication, those dudes can sure catch you by surprise if you're not careful. Forge had nice attacking soccer and were good at keeping possession. It's to be determined if these qualities were because they played each other or if that is just each team's style going forward. We'll just have to wait and see. On the other side of the country, the New Kids in BC played a coast game against Halifax in front of an awesome crowd in Langford. As a Whitecaps fan, I'm excited to see another pro team in BC, and I hope we get plenty of opportunities to meet in the Voyageurs Cup. The game itself was a cagey affair. Neither team truly got going. Neither looked that good, but it is the first game, so they both have a grace period of sorts before we can really judge their quality. Pacific at least was able to take advantage of space in the box and get a goal off that corner. So that passionate crowd did get rewarded with seeing their team win. Halifax just had no answer and seemed very uninspired. Pacific even lost a man to a red card, and Halifax couldn't take advantage. In their defense though, they were missing some important guys to injury. And honestly, so was Pacific with the unfortunate loss of Marcel de Jong for the season to injury. Both teams essentially were not at full strength for this game, but this is just Pacific's look going forward, since de Jong's probably not going to come back this season. But it'll be interesting to see how or if Halifax changes when their guys get back. If what we saw on Sunday is Pacific's approach to the season, they might be in trouble since they beat an undermanned Halifax 1-0. Though at this point, 3 other teams haven't played yet, so who knows how bad the situation for Pacific really is. So that's April 2019 in Canadian soccer. Montreal does good work, TFC slowed down, and the Whitecaps keep whitecapping their way to disappointment. The Furies still haven't decided whether they want to be good or not, and a new league kicks off, giving us a lot more soccer and a lot more potential banter and salt between Canadian soccer fans. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a great day.